All right, I am here with Mark Brewer, executive pastor of the Oaks, and we're going to do an interview about leadership. So, Mark, my first question for you is who in your life inspired you to be a leader, and how did they inspire you?
Our senior pastor probably was the first real inspiration on that. And it probably came from our monthly meetings. We used to do what was called Enjoy Life Club with John Maxwell. And so we were made to listen to those materials and show up and hear him kind of reiterate and reteach those things. So that was kind of my first step into leadership.
Awesome. Would you say there's like a certain event in your life or a certain step of events that kind of led you to that path, or?
Well, getting saved was a big step toward that. So then really, since leadership and discipleship are pretty synonymous, at least from the scripture, I think wanting to become a disciple maker then kind of mandated me moving into a realm where I was actually leading people and understanding what that meant. So that's kind of how it moved in.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next question for you. How do you deal with conflict?
Very carefully. It depends. So if you're talking about workplace conflict, I always start with taking the first hit. So if there's a conflict or there's a misunderstanding or there seems to be a misconstruing of perspective, I'll usually take the first hit and just say, hey, somehow, some way, I was not able to communicate to you appropriately what the expectations are. And so I want to clarify what those expectations are and make sure that we're both on the same page with that. So that's usually my first step. So if someone makes a mistake or there's conflict or there's an issue, I'll take the first hit, even if in my mind I'm about 99% sure that I shouldn't take the first hit. As a leader, I think we can do that. You know, barring some other type of deal where somebody murdered somebody, I probably won't take the first hit for that. But yeah, if there's a conflict, I'll handle it first that way, and then if it needs to be hit again, then I'll start working back through a progression. The main thing is just making sure it's clear. So if there's conflict and it's not clearly understood by both sides, a lot of times that's where the conflict comes from. And so a lot of times I'll have both parties write stuff down, we'll sign it, we'll date it, just to make sure that we're clear on what we're talking about. So,
excellent.
First step.
All right, thank you. Next question. What are some of the most important decisions that you make as a leader?
I think the most important decision you make as a leader, especially if you're talking about a Christian leader, is to really truly trust in the Lord. So we say that, we hear phrases and maybe even scripture verses about trusting in the Lord. But I think as a leader, it becomes real easy to trust in your advisor down the street, the other pastor at the bigger church, somebody that's mentoring you. And so first and foremost, the decision should be made that you're going to trust in God. So how do you do that? Well, you meet with God and you lay your life before the Lord, your burdens, your cares, your the things that you're facing, your problems. And you know, the scripture says pretty clearly, hey, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll make your paths straight. Over time, as a leader, it becomes much easier to trust in other people and even trust in your skills. So that's the first step. I think then after you do that, then you can go to the supplemental areas. I have a life coach. Actually, I have two life coaches. I also have other guys that I meet with regularly to talk things through and meet with them and share some of my concepts, ideas, and things that I'm facing. So you go to God first. That's the most important decision. Second decision is to go to other people, and that becomes supplemental. But when you're making decisions, I think, especially as a Christian leader, man, that's the end game. Go to God, find out from Him. He can speak past all the other stuff. You know, and then there's probably another 100 decisions after that. But for time's sake, let's go with those two.
That's excellent. Piggybacking on that just a little bit, what do you think is the greatest challenge that leaders face today?
There's a number of challenges that I personally have faced. And I think for me, my biggest issue has been fear more than anything else. Probably people from the outside wouldn't say, "Man, that Mark Brewer, he's got a lot of fear, man. We need to pray for that dude, or we need to help that guy." But internally, I'm constantly dealing with fear. As a leader, you can only be a leader if you're tired of the status quo. You can only be a leader if you're mad at what exists and you want to make it better. And as a leader, you have to deal with the fear on a daily basis, the fear of saying, hey, things aren't as good as they could be, so therefore let's go that direction. That always puts you out on a limb. It always makes you a target. Your words become a target. Your lifestyle becomes a target. And so I deal with fear a lot, and I have to lay that before the Lord and keep going to Him and saying, Lord, you called me to this. You're going to have to help me navigate and manage the fear that I face on a daily basis in being a leader.
Excellent. And my last question for you is if you would have any piece of advice for someone new going into leadership, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think first and foremost, again, to me, leadership is synonymous with discipleship. So I think first and foremost is become a great disciple of Jesus. If you do that, you're going to be really close to the leadership mindset and perspective that I think makes a valuable leader. And so if you're not close to Jesus, if you're not deeply, closely, vigorously pursuing Him and following His concepts and His principles and the way that He walked, then you're moving further and further away from where I think leadership should be. So that'd be the first step, man. Get in tight with Jesus.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank you.
Again.